recorded game. So just as a reminder, games 2 and 3 were casted live, whereas this is kind of me casting all of the other games in the series. So I started from game 1 and then skipping to game 4. So if you're watching on YouTube, that is the reason why the casters just kind of keep randomly changing whilst you're watching this. But anyway, starting from like a position of 2-1, we got 4 random here, but it's just giving us Ghost Lake. Some funny chat going on in the corner. Make some Miguel, don't copy jokes. I don't know what that is. But yeah, Ghost Lake, which is kind of it's a full land map, so kind of similar things going on. But the difference is that obviously both teams were preparing for similar things going on to the game 1. I've got to not reference last game in this thing as if I was if you were viewing these sequentially, then the last game wouldn't have been the Arabia game 1. But obviously both teams were preparing for full random, so they go with the kind of power trio that I talked about, of Huns, Mayans, Mongols, but then obviously Vikings mixed in as well to prepare for the eventuality of there actually being water on the map. That hasn't happened, so we've got a full land map here with Vikings, and although Vikings are a really good flank civ in the kind of mid game to the kind of early Imperial Age, they do tail off massively after that, especially when powerful civilizations like Huns, Mayans, Mongols are on the field. So we may see a teams opt to use their Viking player to sling in this game. Obviously, just really depends on what the teams are thinking and like the positions of the players, etc. But be interesting to see if one team does that and one team doesn't, and kind of gives us a difference in approach between the two players, because otherwise, between the two teams, because otherwise this is a fully mirrored matchup. But anyway, quickly introducing the players. Let's figure out where the flanks are. Yeah, this is Yo playing the kind of bottom flank for the Chinese. In teal as the Mongols. He's facing off against Goku in grey as the Vikings. Yo's pocket is going to be Paladin, in purple as the Mayans. So, okay, never mind. I was going to say something, but it's completely wrong. And then pocket for Goku is Mayans. So, two kind of archer civilizations in pocket and flank here for Brazil. Fire playing yellow Mayans. Pockets on the other side, we see Lix playing in the Vikings playing as the Vikings in the red colours, so maybe he's going to think about Sling from Viking pocket, who knows. Facing off against him, Miguel Hun pocket, really nice thing to land within this kind of full random scenario where you've only got like one Paladin civ and probably one civ, the only civ that will go heavy knights. You probably wouldn't see Mongols doing that, although it obviously depends on the game, but less likely to. So getting the Huns in the pocket, really nice there. Whereas for Chinese team, their Hun player is going to be Love Cheng playing in blue. So Love Cheng has appeared now. I guess it's Moonlight, isn't it, that's gone missing since the Arabia game that we just saw, or that I just casted, but obviously some games were played in between. This is going to keep tripping me up over and over again. So Love Cheng going to be flank player for China in the blue as Huns, and then rounding out the lineup of all the players, we've got Ria playing Mongol flank in orange at the top. So I guess, as I was saying, the interesting thing could be that we might see Sling coming in for a Viking pocket, slinging a Hun flank. That's, in the Arabia game, we had a Mayan pocket slinging a Hun flank for the Chinese. That's possible, and certainly on Ghost Lake tends to be kind of waller, but it does depend on the individual map that a player's been given. Sometimes the ice can interfere, but sometimes trees and cliffs make it quite easy to wall up. The other thing that Vikings can do, although it's not, then they haven't got like the best knights, they can do like a mini boom into dropping a ton of stables, and even though like they lack bloodlines in the Castle Age, like a Viking mini boom into flooding knights can still be really, really powerful. So that could be an option, but with a Hun flank, and considering they slung a Hun flank player before, it kind of feels like China might go for that option. Meanwhile, for Yo, clicking up to the feudal age pretty early as Mongols on 20 populations, he's basically going scouts. Whereas Goku seems to be opting for a drush, but I just feel like that went up a not a tiny bit late. I suppose it's actually getting that first militia out. On the top side of the map for Riot, he's Mongols as well, also on the way to the feudal age, so he's just coming out. I think he's going to drop his barracks and maybe then his stable in this gap to kind of wall up a little bit. Interestingly, he puts it there and leaves it one tile open. A bit weird, but I assume he'll spot that. Whereas Love Change is walling everything, preparing for the inevitable scouts that he's probably also scouting himself. Actually, no, he's drushed. I'm sorry, he does have the barracks up and he's drushing, so maybe doing Drush FC Knights on the flank and then let his Viking pocket that's really close to him go crossbows. I don't know, but we also see Viking player walling up as well. Goku's Drush just kind of in the no man's land between him and his opponent. Will be able to kind of stop Yo from completely walling up, whilst Yo is trying to go scout. It's going to do that stable. Actually, he'll be able to funnel those militia nicely towards the TC and make sure he gets that stable up in time. Meanwhile, it looks like the Chinese going for a complete team wall in the top, just with the palisade walls for now. Love Cheng's Drush is going to find Riet's woodline, and they could trap a couple of villagers here and pick up a couple of kills. Every chance of him doing that. Now Riet's going to palisade in the rest of it, but actually not even quite getting that palisade in time. And I think Love Cheng could do some really good damage to Riet, both in terms of idle time and kills here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him picking up 2 kills. The first one about to come in now, but he's gonna well, Love Cheng's gonna opt to kind of micro it back a little bit before and not just completely take the fight. And Riet's scouts are there, so gonna help him to fight that back. And Riet may well keep the villager losses at just the 1 for now. Yo with scouts out as well, so he's gonna have an easy time fighting back against Goku's Drush in combination with his own villagers. So both Drushes that are in play that we see, so far they've only picked up 1 villager between them, so no kind of like devastating drushing going on thus far. Let's have a look at what Lix is doing. We see market for him, so sling is happening, sling from the Viking pocket. I'm guessing that's going to go to Love Cheng, who will basically drush into slung knights. I've seen him play incredibly strong when being slung before his Huns, so it'll be interesting to see how well he does there going forward in this game. But other than that, it looks like basically everybody has kind of walled up, and nothing much going on for now. Lick's getting the coinage, so his sling will be kicking in, like reaching at the full potential of the feudal sling in just a moment. Let's have a look at the kind of builds of the players as they hit the feudal age. Miguel dropping stable blacksmith as Huns. Mayan pocket is going to be a plumed archer play from Fire, because he's on stone whilst dropping a market, and a blacksmith play is going to go fast castle plumes. Probably also look to do some fairly early TCs off the back of that as well, and boom up like pretty quickly whilst also producing plumed archers from 1 castle. Yo is obviously, he went to scout, so he's stable blacksmith and will be looking to go up to the feudal age in the not too distant future, but obviously delayed by the fact that he did do some scouts. Same thing will be in play for Riet, although Riet got opting for some stone walls here. I wonder if the units can actually walk along there. Yeah, he's going to go and seal that up. Over here we see Mayan pocket for Paladin. He went to the castle area with a market and a blacksmith. Presume he's on stone. Yes, he is. So probably going to be seeing plumed archers from the pocket from both teams. But the difference is that Chinese are going to have Vikings slinging their Hun flank, basically. Fire Xing this area is a potential spot to hit, maybe with the plumes that he's going to have, or maybe somebody else's units, because they'll be able to, given that the area that Lix has actually walled this in with his stone walls, they'll be able to interrupt the gold sling from the main gold at least quite nicely by harassing that area. Yo's scouts still prowling around, but really not achieving anything. Brazil are all nicely walled up at this point, except for Miguel, who he probably doesn't have too much to worry about considering he'll be in the Castle Age shortly. And he's actually gone up with the second stable, so 2 stable knights from the pocket. Going to be interesting as well to see how Love Cheng does with the sling that I presume is going to go to him, because he is facing a camel sieve on the flank. Riet will be able to produce camels, given that he's the Mongols, and camels obviously the ideal unit for shutting down an enemy sling when they're just absolutely massing up knights. Also, stone walls are going to ensure that he doesn't receive too much raiding from that. But it will be a while until Riet actually reaches the Castle Age and can produce those camels. Peganator in the chat, where have you been? I haven't seen you for ages. Looks like scouts being used to just collect up the extra sheep on the ice, because there's so little they can do with all the amount of walling from both teams here. Miguel's the only one who's just like kind of playing YOLO and not really walled all that much, although he is kind of sealed off across the front here. So really, this is the only opening. Actually, I'll take that back. He is partially walled indeed. Playing the unspoken game. You've been playing HD. Yeah, ashamed indeed. I assume that's what you mean. Anyway, returning to the game, Miguel and Love Cheng are going to clash here with their knights. It's going to be really hard to tell on the stream, probably because the blue and the green look kind of similar, but feels like Miguel with more knights on the field right now. I'm going to switch points of view to see where that sling is going. Is actually... Okay, Miguel is being slung as well. You would have to have assumed that was the case, considering the fact that he's had more knights than Love Cheng, who was being slung as well. But maybe... I'm going to see who's actually sent that for Brazil, because I thought Fire was on the... Okay, actually Goku is slinging as Vikings, so Goku did like a drush sling, I think. I'm sure he drushed, didn't he? I'm not going crazy. I completely missed that. Like, I assumed that because he was drushing, he wasn't gonna sling, and he was gonna play crossbows. So yeah, so Goku is actually slinging for Brazil. So both Hun players being slung. Both of them are going to be concentrating mostly on the top of the map, considering that's where they are. Although Love Cheng being the flank and Miguel being the pocket. So it'd be interesting to see if Riet how much army Riet makes, considering like Miguel and Love Cheng will go head to head, and on this side of the map, Lix is just slinging. Does Riet just kind of use that breathing space that he'll have, considering his like pocket will fight the enemy flank and the enemy pocket isn't doing much? Does he use that to just like focus mainly on booming, or does he kind of go heavy on camels and stuff and try and shut down Love Cheng's knights? Obviously there'll be a similar kind of thing going on the opposite side, where there's kind of one more player in play with a free hand to decide what to do. Paladin getting up that castle now, so he's going to be going into the plumed archers a little bit later than Fire, because actually when we were looking at Fire's base, we saw that castle had been built several minutes ago, and he's actually already streaming plumes across the map. I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of raiding against Yo if he can, but Yo is looking in a good position to defend against raiding. Pretty much the only thing that Fire will be able to hit of his is just these villagers on the wood line, which can easily be retreated. Meanwhile, Miguel kind of prowling around up here, looking to break into Love Cheng's base, whilst Love Cheng is kind of raiding Miguel as well, but not with that many knights. And considering Miguel probably has like 3 stables at this point, I can see 2 at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised at a third somewhere. Considering he's receiving the sling, like he'll be able to produce knights, especially Hun, like with Hun stable bones, really quickly to push away Love Cheng. And actually, I think Miguel probably has more chance of doing damage to Love Cheng than vice versa. Although Love Cheng did manage to seal up this palisade wall with a stone gate behind just in time. But now military numbers between Love Cheng and Miguel looking basically even, and actually villagers identical as well. So pretty even, like both slung Hun players basically playing exactly the same, although Love Cheng now with a couple of monks which will help him defend pretty nicely. Riet did go some camels to help shut down that knight army of Love Cheng, but not really joining up with Miguel at this point to any great effect. Meanwhile, on this side of the map, Goku was obviously slinging. Yo is walling in Goku, so I think he's already thinking about securing this corner for, well, not only kind of restricting Brazil's movements, but maybe even for trade. Like trading from the bottom corner, where they really like the only danger to it is Goku, who is being slung anyway, who's slinging anyway. Pretty interesting. But both teams just kind of posturing at the moment, nobody really committing to anything massive. Villager numbers and military numbers between Love Cheng and Miguel staying basically identical at this point. Paladin slightly outbooming the other Mayan player, Fire, but that's to be expected because Fire made more plumed archers, like switched into producing plumed archers and having got that castle up a little bit earlier. Whereas Paladin only got that castle up somewhat later. But no fights happening just for now. Could be about to see the first really big engagement though. Miguel and Love Cheng's knights are going to face each other, but Riet's camels are kind of slightly outflanking those knights of Yinghua and or Love Cheng. And that fight is going to go pretty decisively in the favour of the Brazilian team. I'm just so surprised that Love Cheng actually just stood there and took that fight. Like, once those camels appeared on the scene, like, he probably initially thought he was going to have a slight edge because he had the 3 monks there. I think it was 3. But once the camels appeared on the scene, like, I think he wanted to avoid getting his knights caught up in the fight too much. And Fire's going to be there as well to help out, considering like not much is happening on the other side. Yo is just completely booming at this point. You can see he's on 1 military, which is most likely a starting scout, so he's just free booming. And I was talking about like what does Riet do with the free hand he has at this point, considering his pocket was fighting Love Cheng and then the Lix was slinging. So what does Riet do? Does he make army or does he just boom? Riet's response was, I'm going to make army, I'm going to do camels and help Miguel fight Love Cheng. Whereas Yo, faced with the same thing on his side, where like he's playing against basically a player that's just slinging, he's just like, oh, I'm just going to boom, I'm Mongols, I want to get to the Imperial Age, and I'm going to let Paladin kind of make sure he at least counteracts whatever Fire is doing. But Paladin's actually going to kind of push against the sling whilst Fire helps out in the northern part of the map against Love Cheng. So Miguel with slightly more army at this point, but than Love Cheng. But Love Cheng also has the problem that 2 other enemy players have armies in the area, so he can't really take any fights at this point. And Miguel also slightly ahead in terms of getting to the Imperial Age. Both of them build counts basically stuck to each other throughout the entire game. Both Viking players slinging on pretty much the same build count as well, so no real difference there. It seems both of them have basically remained in full sling mode for the entire game up to this point. Looks like Brazil will just continue to kind of try and probe a little bit here, but won't be able to do too much. Paladin is going to try and break into Goku. And nothing much else going on at this point. Besides, like, multiple players kind of transitioning to the Imperial Age, getting ready for the next phase of the game. Paladin has actually sent some plumes up here as well to help Love Cheng fight back, because like they have seen that fire is in this area as well as Riet's camels. Miguel, meanwhile, like most of his stuff is out on the ice, not really being put to any much use at this point. He didn't really. Well, a while back he wasn't adding in too many knights, but now the military numbers have really started to take off for him. 42 versus the 34 of Love Cheng, dropping a ton of stables on the way to the Imperial Age. Going to be up to like eight stables or something like that, and he's going to have Cavalier and such kicking in ahead of the Chinese player Love Cheng. Gonna check the sling amounts once again just to see if the players switched to they were slinging, because that happened in the Arabia game, but it looks like just apart from a tiny bit going in Riet's direction, both teams have remained slinging, just the Hun players. So that's Miguel and Love Cheng. But Miguel can even take down this castle. Going to be backed up by one Tread from Fire, who got to the Imperial Age in a good time as well. And Miguel is bringing a ton of Cavaliers under. Yeah, he's protecting Goku from being broken into, so therefore securing the safety of the sling for the Brazilian team. Meanwhile, Paladin and Love Cheng gonna try and break into this northern wall of Riet, but Riet's gonna quick wall behind it by the looks of it, with stone walls, sending a ton of villagers out here to get the job done. Looks like Goku is probably just Xing Yo's kind of map control that he has in the southern corner. Is like saying, oh, there are walls here, there are castles here. They control that corner at this point. This wall goes up just in time for Riet, which is going to buy him lots of time to build up himself, but also allow Miguel to come and divert some forces over here, which he is doing. We see a whole bunch of Cavaliers heading up to this point. That castle did go down, and Fire's going to use the strength of the mines in the early Imperial Age to try and push against Yo's castles. But Yo did free boom the whole game, so he's not going to be as kind of not delayed, but kind of taking so long to get going as you might typically see a Mongols player doing if they've been making army in the Castle Age and stuff. But Fire's got a really nice hill here. He's replacing Paladin's castle that he had with a castle of his own. He's going to be able to, I don't know if that Tread, at least that Tread might be getting like hill bonus from being one tile up the hill, but certainly be able to use this hill as a base from which to push. Meanwhile, at the top, both Hun players now sitting on Paladin. Riet defending with some camels, and he's also got Mangudai down here. The player Paladin has plumed archers parked nicely on a hill there, but only just getting thumb ring and stuff. Actually, once he gets that thumb ring, they will be fully upgraded, but you know, without an absolutely enormous mass, Paladins can kind of shrug off plumed archer fire to a degree. The hill, though, obviously helping with that. But Miguel is going to get an amazing trap on all of Love Cheng's Paladins that are over here. I mean, Love Cheng's got other ones streaming across the map to try and help out against Fire's push in the south, but in the meantime, like the rest of his army is in the north, and Miguel is going to trap all of it. Just really well played by Miguel, kind of splitting his forces, holding this push and then flanking around the side, completely pinching all of Yinggua's army, and now Miguel on 70 paladins compared to Love Cheng's 30, and all of those 30 are in the kind of southern part, well, in or streaming towards the southern part of the map, to help out Yo and Paladin's small number of plumed archers against Fire's much larger plumed archer and tread push that's going on down here. But that's going to leave Miguel kind of a free hand to push in and do tons of damage with this massive army that he has, unless Love Cheng just diverts units to kind of repel this massive attack that Miguel is capable of launching at this point. It also gives Riet the kind of breathing room to push out. And we can see that he's dropping a castle here in a nice location that will allow him to kind of lay a siege upon the team wall of China and also start taking some stone from here, which is probably second stone rather than extra stone actually. Fire being pushed back a little bit for now is kind of outnumbered in terms of the number of players that are here from the enemy team. But it looks like Miguel is on his way to kind of seal the deal with the just crazy number of paladins that he has. And if we end up with a kind of Miguel on fire versus Yo Paladin on Love Cheng in the south, then that's going to mean that Riot is just going to be doing whatever the hell he likes in the north. And we can already see that he's just completely pushing against this northern corner and also putting up markets here, because this is the only way Brazil can trade at this point, with the Chinese team controlling the southern corner for now. Like, Brazil will be trying to take control of that northern corner if they can. Love Cheng's done a good job of remassing paladins, but he's still only on 55 to the almost 90 paladins of Miguel at this point. We just saw for a moment there 86, that's like the Illuminati army number from the first game, that the Chinese players had all of the largest army, 86, but now we see that big fight coming in and Miguel's paladin numbers are just insane, and the Chinese just can't stand and fight this, have to retreat to better ground to fight. Especially like underneath this castle and trapping the Mangudai and the plumed archers between buildings and stuff in the narrow spaces. Yeah, this map is Ghost Lake. One of the standard Age of Empires maps. So the players, the settings for this match were full random for game 4. So full random gave us Ghost Lake. See Yo kind of trying to switch into Mongol Siege and now get Siege Ram, Siege Engineers, but Fire's doing a really good tread push down here, probably going to take out castles and a whole bunch of siege workshops before Yo's really able to mass up any siege units from those workshops. With the amount of paladins that Miguel has in the area, like the Chinese team are really going to struggle to stop Fire from doing this tread push and kind of just taking out buildings in this area and even removing the southern corner as a possibility for trade. Whilst Riot, meanwhile, is just able to push in against the northern corner really, really nicely on a great number of Mangudai now. And Love Cheng, considering he's kind of having to save the southern corner, or the southern flank of his team from the just stupid amount of military that Miguel has, is now having, whilst at the same time Riot is pushing him in the north, means that he's splitting his army and he's not really going to be able to take favourable fights in either location now, despite the fact that he has actually got onto a great number of paladins himself. He briefly got up to around 80, but dropping like a stone now, as Brazil take favourable fights in both locations. You see Love Cheng just getting cleaned up here, fighting underneath 2 castles against a bunch of Mangudai, and Miguel even kind of joining in the fun again at the top. Blotting out the sun with paladins. It's interesting. I said in game 1, like I accidentally said Paladai, like a Paladin Mangudai hybrid. But if we ever get flying paladins, that's it. Like, you know, just every other unit in AOC is GG if you get flying paladins blotting out the sun. Seems like for now Miguel doesn't have quite as much in the south. It means that the Chinese might be able to take a good fight here, but in the meantime they're just collapsing in the north. Riot just kind of spreading out, raiding, starting to treb everything down. Got a massive ball of Mangudai that can really rip up opposing armies at this point, and still backed up by a decent number of paladins from Miguel as well, who is just sticking solidly to close to 200 population, whereas Love Cheng not so much. Also, of note is that Goku did go to the Castle Age. At the moment, don't see him on the way to the Imperial Age, but he might be thinking either transition to Castle Age Sling or thinking about going up a little later on. Whilst Lix has remained steadfastly in the Feudal Age, doing nothing but a feudal sling. Although actually now, as I look at the research upgrades, he is going to the Castle Age. Now you can kind of see the difference in kind of Riet and Yo as well at this point, because Riet just getting about to finish Siege Onager, whereas Yo's only just started Onager. And once kind of Riet is pushing up here with Trebs, Elite Mangudai, Siege Onagers and Paladins helping from Miguel, that's just going to be unstoppable because Love Cheng is fighting in the south as well as in the north. Like, he would need to devote his entire attention to just pushing back the Mongol player, but instead he's mostly occupied in the south, and he's getting no help from his pocket, who is just pure sling and on the way to Castle Age, but has no military presence whatsoever. Mentioned this hill will be really nice with fire to push from, but now it's going to be the kind of bulwark of his defense. But even so, like, Chinese players do have so much army down in this area now. They're going to be able to start pushing back. With fire, with a good extra number of Boom Archers here, if he sits them, he'll be able to take out a great number of Mangudai from Yo. And Miguel is back to streaming Paladins down here, as well as stuff arriving from Riet. A ton of Mangudai coming across the ice. So even as Riet pushes in the north, he realises that, you know, his teammates could do with a little bit of help in the south, so he's just diverting about 20 Mangudai to swing the fight. And now I think that will be really making a difference here, especially with SO coming out as well. Because he can also afford to do that, because in the north he's just cleaning up. Like, Love Cheng is not going to exist in a few minutes time, basically. Still on good population for now, but how long that is the case, who knows. And now the Brazilian team are kind of forcing the Chinese team back towards the left, like bottom left edge of this map, which will give them an avenue to run into the trade at some point. It seems that a few plumes from fire, I'm assuming it was those plumes that came like here, like that, from the south, were the ones who got into the trade and destroyed some carts. Just heard some siege under the shots, but nothing crazy going on by the looks of it. I think Brazil want to start trading in the northern corner now, like move that market to the northern corner. I think that's what all that seems about. Love Cheng trying to make a last stand here with his Paladins, but Riet with lots of Mangudai kind of repositioning them, re-microing them. I'm going to probably be able to deal with those Paladins from Love Cheng, especially whilst they're kind of split up and messing about rather than all attacking. And on the south, Brazil are pushing well again. Love Cheng's Paladin numbers have just been massively depleted here. And Yo's still trying to stand firm with a good number of Mangudai, but there's just too much army here from Brazil now. See that they've all got around 70 army, whereas for the Chinese it's all around 40 to 45. A massive difference, and that's why they're losing on both sides, and that's why they're calling GG. A little bit of a late resignation here, just prolonging the game for a moment longer, but I think you know, that game turned probably on Miguel just outmassing Love Cheng, and also like the fact that Riet was pushing much earlier in the northern corner, with like his using like the Mongol player for Brazil basically was pushing much earlier than the Mongol player for China, who was basically holding. Like, Yo had free boom all game versus like the player that he was facing on the flank was a slinger, but Yo kind of was just seemed to be a little bit delayed compared to Riet, who did receive a tiny bit of sling, and Paladin was the one who was kind of tasked with the responsibility of keeping the pocket busy while also like trying to push into the flank sling for Brazil, but that never really happened. Like, Goku was just safe for the whole game. Yo didn't really push, but meanwhile Riet was really pushing into the northern corner against the player who was actually receiving the sling whilst he was distracted elsewhere, and whilst he himself wasn't keeping up the military numbers that the player on the other team, Miguel, who was getting the sling, was. Like, Miguel just maintaining those numbers throughout the game much more effectively. We'll see that he eclipsed Love Cheng by largest army by about 8, but for most of the game, like, the difference was much greater in the amount of Paladins that they had on the field. And also you can look at the largest army differences between all the teams. Brazil are just fielding so much more army in total. was pretty decisive. I think it was just numbers in both sides, and then once Brazil kind of had a good split of numbers in the north and south, they were able to take fights pretty handily in both locations. So that makes it 3-1 to Brazil in this best of seven. So match point. We can load the recorded game and head straight into the next one, which is going to be SY map pack. So let's see what we get.